strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Let's get started. Our top story tonight is about a major row at the Paris Olympics. At the center of the heated controversy is an Algerian female boxer's 46-second win. And what unfolded has given rise to a series of crucial questions over fair play. We decode the developments for you and get you the reactions. Here's a look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. Who betrayed Iran? How was Ismail Haniyeh assassinated? According to a report, the Hamas leader was killed by a bomb that was smuggled into the guest house 2 months ago. We also get you a special report on the cost of living crisis in Nigeria as people take to the streets to express their anger and frustration. Is the moon drifting away from planet Earth? We tell you all that you need to know. All this and more lined up for you tonight. Our top story tonight on Gravitas is about a major row that erupted at the Paris Olympics. Have you heard about the Algerian female boxer's 46-second win at the Paris Olympics? Imane Khelif of Algeria defeated Angela Carini of Italy after Carini quit 46 seconds into the match. And the developments have since transformed into a heated controversy. Let's break it down for you. It all started after Khelif's opening bout on Thursday ended dramatically when her Italian opponent, Carini, withdrew just 46 seconds into the clash. She had suffered a nose injury. She withdrew to preserve her life, quote unquote. And this has triggered a fierce debate. Khelif is being called trans, biological male. Her gender identity is being questioned. Critics are slamming the International Olympic Committee's decision to let Khelif compete. They are asking whether her participation compromised the fairness of the sport. The episode has given rise to a series of questions. Big questions like, was this a fair match? What does the IOC have to say about all this? Did indifference lead to this situation? Let's just understand this better first. Here's what happened in the bout. Khelif won her round of 16 welterweight match, defeating Italy's Carini. Carini's defense was well under par throughout the bout. The punch that landed at the end was taken full on the face. The Italian boxer withdrew from the match and was seen crying in the middle of the ring. Post the match, Carini said that she had never been hit this hard before. Carini said that she ended the fight because she felt a severe pain in her nose. The speed of Khelif's victory and the manner of it. Carini quitting in tears after being subject to a barrage of punches were all picked up on social media. Many allege that Khelif was a man or trans person and should not have been playing at a women's event. But here's the thing, the match was controversial even before it started. You see, Algeria's Khelif is one of the two boxers permitted to fight at the Olympics despite being disqualified from the Women's World Championships last year for failing gender eligibility tests. Khelif and Taiwan's Lin Yuting had reportedly failed to meet gender eligibility tests at last year's World Boxing Championships. At the time, sporting officials alleged that the boxers failed an unspecified test because they had male chromosomes. But with both being allowed to compete this year, the Olympics received massive backlash in the days leading up to the match. Here's what we know. Khelif was born a cis woman as declared in her passport. It's on this basis that the International Olympic Committee determines eligibility to participate in women's events. She has been competing in women's competition for several years. In fact, she represented Algeria at the Tokyo 2020 Olympics as well, where she lost in the quarterfinals. She finished 17th in the 2018 AIBA World Championships and 33rd in the 2019 one before reaching the final in the 2022 Worlds where she lost. So she has been beaten before. There is no suggestion Khelif has done anything wrong. She is not known to have cheated by doping with testosterone, a naturally occurring hormone which both men and women produce. Nor is Khelif a transgender, despite what some are insinuating online. Unusually, Khelif is reported to have XY sex chromosomes. Most women have XX sex chromosomes, but Khelif was born female. More importantly, boxers are supposed to punch each other hard to win. Still, the criticism flew in, with many labeling her as trans or biological male. After the fight, the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, spoke out on the matter. She questioned the International Olympic Committee's decision to allow the Algerian athlete to compete among women. She said, and I'm quoting, "In these things, what counts is your dedication, your head and character, but it also counts having a parity of arms. Several American politicians, including former President Donald Trump, also shared their views on the match. He said, and I'm quoting now, "I will keep men out of women's sports." Khelif's win also provoked responses from several prominent figures who are known for their problematic remarks on transgender people. Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling referred to the Algerian boxer Khelif as male, calling the match a brutal injustice. Billionaire entrepreneur Elon Musk, who recently drew criticism for his comments about his estranged trans daughter, linked it to the US presidential elections. Replying to a post about the match on X, he wrote, "Kamala Harris supports this. Vote accordingly," quote unquote. And amid the criticism, many also raised a pertinent issue. If Khelif was banned by the International Boxing Association, or IBA, how is she taking part in the Olympics? And here's where the story gets interesting. The boxing event in Paris is being handled by the IOC. In 2019, the IBA had been de-recognized by the IOC for financial mismanagement, governance, and integrity issues. A day before the match, the IOC criticized the backlash directed at Khelif, as well as the decision by the IBA to disqualify her from last year's championships. The IOC said in a statement, the current aggression against these two athletes is based entirely on this arbitrary decision, which was taken without any proper procedure, especially considering that these athletes had been competing in top-level competition for many years. Such an approach is contrary to good governance, quote unquote. In its statement, the IOC noted that it withdrew recognition of the IBA last year. Instead of the IBA, the IOC refers to the Paris 2024 Boxing Unit, an ad hoc unit it developed for its eligibility standards. The IOC said that the gender and age of the athletes are based on their passport. It raises questions about the entire incident. So who is at fault here? Was the match fair for Khelif-Carini? Is it time for the IOC to re-evaluate its eligibility criteria? Whatever Khelif's biological profile is, the fact remains that she is a woman. Then is the criticism right? Is it right to try and put the label of a biological male or trans? Were there inconsistencies in the IOC's eligibility criteria? Is it the IOC's indifference that has landed us here in the first place? Is it time that the IOC goes back to the drawing board and factors in the biological differences to make it fair play? And was it not fair play in the first place? The entire episode has triggered a lot of concern and allegations of injustice for Carini and injustice for Khelif. Crucial questions are being asked. After all, this is about fair play. Do sports organizations need to do more to ensure the right to compete without discrimination is championed? Let's now shift our focus to West Asia. The assassination of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran has sent shock waves through the region. It has also given rise to a big question. Who betrayed Iran? Let's tell you what a New York Times report says. An explosive device was covertly smuggled into the Tehran guest house where Haniyeh was staying. The bomb, hidden approximately 2 months ago, was kept within a guest house operated and protected by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. This facility, part of the upscale Nishat compound in northern Tehran, seemed to be impenetrable. You see, Haniyeh was there in Tehran for the presidential inauguration, a period marked by heightened security and scrutiny. The report further added that the bomb was detonated remotely once Haniyeh was confirmed to be in his room. The explosion not only killed him, but also his bodyguard. The blast shook the building, shattered windows, and partially collapsed an exterior wall. Haniyeh is reported to have had frequently stayed at this guest house during his visits to Tehran, making this breach of security even more alarming. Both Iranian officials and Hamas have accused Israel of orchestrating the assassination. According to the New York Times report, despite Israel not publicly acknowledging responsibility, Israeli intelligence officials briefed the United States and other Western governments on the operation's details immediately afterward. What has been reported now raises a fresh set of questions. Experts have described it as a catastrophic intelligence and security failure for Iran and an enormous embarrassment for the IRGC, which uses the compound for retreats, secret meetings, and housing prominent guests like Haniyeh. The precise method of how the bomb was placed in the guest house remains unclear. Officials privy to the matter have reportedly said that planning such kind of an assassination takes months and requires extensive surveillance of the compound. As per reports, Israel intentionally chose to carry out the assassination outside Qatar, where Haniyeh and other senior Hamas leaders reportedly reside. Qatar, remember, has been mediating negotiations between Israel and Hamas over a ceasefire in Gaza. This assassination threatens to trigger a wider war and a new wave of violence in West Asia. It could also disrupt the ongoing negotiations to end the war in Gaza. A sentiment echoed by US President Joe Biden, who said Haniyeh's assassination is not helpful for the ceasefire talks. He also said that he is very concerned about the tensions in West Asia and urged Israel and Hamas to quickly reach a ceasefire. Iran and Hezbollah both have vowed revenge against Israel.
I'm very concerned about it. I had a very direct meeting with the Prime Minister today, and very direct. We have the basis for a ceasefire. He should move on it, and they should move on it now. It's not helped. That's all I'm going to say right now.
According to reports, it was around 2 a.m. local time when the device exploded. It startled the staff members who rushed to find the source of the noise, leading them to Haniyeh's room. The compound's medical team declared Haniyeh dead immediately and attempted unsuccessfully to revive his bodyguard. Ziad al-Naqla, the leader of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, was staying next door, his room undamaged, highlighting the precise targeting that was involved. Khalil al-Haya, Hamas's deputy commander in Gaza, who was also in Tehran, arrived at the scene and confirmed his colleague's death. 4 hours after the blast, the IRGC issued a statement confirming Haniyeh's death. The assassination method sparked speculation within Iran. The Tasneem news agency reported witness claims of a missile hitting Haniyeh's window. As per details in the New York Times report, the explosion occurred inside the room with explosives planted well in advance. In fact, experts have compared the attack's precision and sophistication to the remote-controlled AI robot weapon Israel used to assassinate Iran's top nuclear scientist, Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, in 2020. In fact, Mossad chief David Barnea had previously stated the agency's commitment to targeting Hamas leaders responsible for the October 7 attacks. Reports indicate that Israeli intelligence tracked Haniyeh in Doha, Qatar for months. Additionally, Shin Bet, Israel's security agency, allegedly knew the exact room Haniyeh occupied in Tehran. This level of detailed intelligence points to a high level of infiltration as well as coordination. The assassination of Hani also brings into focus the death of former Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi. Remember, Raisi, along with 8 others, including the foreign minister, died in a helicopter crash on the 19th of May. Speculation arises whether Israel had a role in Raisi's death, given the capability to plant a bomb months in advance, and their knowledge of upcoming political events requiring leaders to travel to Tehran for the new president's inauguration. These questions are being asked. So who betrayed Iran? The assassination of Ismail Hani exposes significant vulnerabilities within Iran's security, raising questions about the effectiveness of the IRGC's protective measures. The breach that allowed such an operation to unfold within a highly secured compound suggests either a formidable external infiltration or potential internal complicity. The ramifications of this assassination are profound. The question of who betrayed Iran continues to hang in the air, along with the question of what lies ahead for West Asia. Let's now tell you all about the extraordinary prisoner exchange between Russia and the West. 3 Americans, including Wall Street Journal reporter Ivan Gershkovich, returned home in a high-profile prisoner swap involving 26 prisoners from 7 different countries. This exchange took place on an airfield in Turkey, marking a monumental diplomatic victory. Former U.S. Marine Paul Whelan and Russian-American journalist Alsu Kurmasheva were also among those involved. According to media reports, there was jubilation and relief at the Joint Base Andrews in Maryland, U.S., with U.S. President Joe Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, and the families of those freed welcoming them back. In fact, President Biden hailed the release as a feat of diplomacy, commending the efforts of America's allies, particularly Germany and Slovenia. He declared with relief, their brutal ordeal is over, quote unquote.
Moments ago, the families and I were able to speak to them on the telephone from the Oval Office. They're out of Russia. Earlier today, they were flown to Turkey, and soon they'll be wheels up on their way home to see their families. This is an incredible relief for all the family members gathered here. It's relief to the friends and colleagues all across the country who've been praying for this day for a long time. The deal that made this possible was a feat of diplomacy and friendship. Multiple countries helped get this done. They joined the difficult, complex negotiations at my request, and I personally thank them all again. And I've thanked them personally, and I'll thank them again.
According to reports, the roots of the negotiations stretch back over 18 months, centered around Moscow's insistence on the return of Vadim Krasikov, who was serving a life sentence in Germany for an assassination in a Berlin park. Krasikov, along with other prisoners, has now been repatriated to Russia. Among those greeted by President Putin at Moscow's airport were individuals convicted of espionage and other grave crimes. This swap, while a relief for the freed individuals and their families, of course, raises concerns about the precedent that it sets. According to experts, Putin's priority was clear: reassure Russia's overseas espionage agencies, primarily the SVR, and the GRU, his military intelligence, that he would get their operatives back no matter what. British political experts state that Putin is positioning himself as the leader who stands up to the West and forces America to negotiate. However, this only threatens to worsen a state hostage-taking. In an article in The Telegraph, Bob Seeley, former Member of Parliament of the United Kingdom, wrote that Krasikov was a hitman imprisoned for murder, and Putin will learn from this that his ruthlessness pays off. He will reckon he can always get his people out of Western prisons. As per reports, Ivan Gashkovich's trial was widely dismissed as a formality, a charade, to pave the way for his exchange. The same applies to Alsu Kormasheva, whose trial spanned just 2 days before she was handed a 6.5-year sentence. These swift proceedings were clear indicators that a behind-the-scenes deal was being orchestrated. That's what the report suggested. Overall, 10 individuals, including 2 minors, were relocated to Russia, 13 to Germany and 3 to the US. Germany, Poland, Slovenia, Norway, Russia and Belarus were all key players in the exchange. High-profile prisoner swaps are not new. In December 2022, US basketball star Brittany Griner was exchanged for Russian arms dealer Viktor Bout. And back in 2010, 10 Russian spies held in the US were swapped for 4 double agents held in Russia. According to experts, in the wake of this latest swap, both sides are claiming victory. Western governments are celebrating the release of foreign nationals and prominent Russian political prisoners. Meanwhile, Moscow is heralding the return of its operatives. As per reports, the negotiations leading to this exchange were described as feverish and testing, conducted against the backdrop of soaring US-Russia tensions over the Ukraine war. In fact, US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan emphasized the intricate and painstaking nature of these talks, highlighting the challenging environment in which they took place. There's one thing that the wise always tell us. Your friends are not those who are with you only in your happy moments, but your real friends are the ones who stay with you in your tough times. The word tough does not do justice to the kind of week the people of Wayanad have had. Houses have been flattened. Villages have been swept away by landslides that struck villages at around 2 a.m. and a little past 4 a.m. on Tuesday. The villagers' fates were sealed as they slept. 3 days on, the death toll has crossed 300. Some 300 people are still missing. The picturesque tourist town has been reduced to rubble. Several houses, people remain buried. Rescue workers are racing against time to save as many lives as possible. The disaster-struck areas have mostly been cut off. In such times, it is the army that has stepped up to ensure that rescue missions are carried out seamlessly and as promptly as possible. It has built a bridge in a record time. The bridge has been named CL24 Bailey Bridge. It connects Churalmala and Mundakai. The bridge is 190 feet long and it can withstand a weight of 24 tons. The bridge was built in record time. We are talking about less than 24 hours. It was open to the public on Thursday. This bridge is helping heavy machinery reach the disaster-struck area. It is helping the workers clear the debris. And this is just one of the ways in which the Indian Army is helping save lives in Wayanad. Around 500 personnel of the Indian Army are working in the affected areas. Teams have been mobilized from Kannur, Kozhikode. This includes medical staff, personnel with rescue dogs. The Army has rescued upwards of 1,000 people, provided medical aid to rescue those who are trapped and evacuated them to safer places. In fact, the Army has set up a command and control center in Kozhikode to coordinate the operations. The Indian Army is working relentlessly to ensure relief and rescue in the affected areas. The Indian Air Force also has pressed into action. IAF choppers have undertaken multiple sorties, dropping food items and other relief material. The helicopters have also evacuated civilians from areas that have been cut off. Aviation assets of the Indian Navy also are working in the affected areas. And this story once again telling the people of India that when the going gets tough, the country's armed forces always step up to ease the pain. And for our next story, we will tell you about Pakistan. The country's powerful army is on a secret mission, a mission to target those who question its authority. We are talking about judges, activists and journalists, in short, dissenters that it views as political enemies. The revelations came from an investigative report published by an independent news platform called Drop Site News. The damning report talks about how Pakistan's Inter-Services Public Relations Department, ISPR, has launched the program. They are calling it Army Agahi Network or Army Awareness Network. The program reportedly started last year, under which the Pakistan military officers created fake social media profiles to push pro-military messages. As per the report, ISPR designates those going against state institutions and personalities on social media as quote-unquote digital terrorists. Using these fake profiles, the Pakistan military subjects the so-called dissenters to false accusations and threats. Officers in the Army Agahi network reportedly get approved messages from their superiors in the military and disseminate them on social media under various pseudonyms. Many of these fake accounts describe themselves as freelance writers or social media bloggers or investigative researchers, while others claim to offer open source military analysis. But these accounts not only post, but they also amplify and engage with messages from peers, attacking perceived adversaries online. Although most posts are in in Urdu, many posts are also in English. In recent months, the Army Agahi network has reportedly targeted Judge Babar Sattar of the Islamabad High Court. He was one of the signatories of a letter in May this year that alleged Pakistan's military intelligence agency's hand in interfering in judicial cases involving former Prime Minister Imran Khan. That explosive letter had accused the Pakistan military of intimidating and coercing judges to sway the ongoing legal proceedings against Khan. And what's more, the Pakistan military program has also increasingly targeted Khan's party, accusing it of having ties with Indian intelligence agencies and disseminating anti-Semitic messages. The Pakistan Army's secret campaign against Khan reportedly involves shifting blame for Pakistan's economic issues onto Khan and his party, PTI. Recent posts by the members of this secret network have accused Khan of worsening the country's economic problems and praising the current government's crackdown on digital terrorists, the so-called digital terrorists. According to this report, those supporting former Prime Minister Imran Khan and his party, the PTI, top the list of digital terrorists. Pakistan officers in these top secret programs receive approved messages from their superiors and then share those messages on social media under their aliases. One source, as quoted by the publication, said that the Pakistan military's brief is to spread political posts in violation of their oath of office and the Pakistani constitution. Even journalists have been targeted. The fake accounts used by this secret Pakistan military network have labelled journalists like Hamid Mir as loyal to every enemy of the country, quote unquote. They have also attacked local newspapers like Dawn for appointing LGBTQ supporters to senior positions in the news organization. In fact, early this year, Pakistan reportedly blocked access to social media platform X, citing national concerns. After the ban on the platform X, the secret program's focus shifted to Facebook. In August last year, the then IT Minister Saeed Aminul Haq announced plans to develop a WhatsApp alternative for the federal government officers. Pakistani authorities had been on the fence about WhatsApp and the security that the Meta-owned platform provides. This apprehension came nearly 24 federal officials were targeted by Pegasus, a spyware developed by the Israeli cybersecurity firm NSO in 2019. Now, fast forward to August this year, and the Pakistani alternative to the app, known as Beep, is in the final stages of its trial. According to reports, the Pakistani government is now planning to roll out the application for all its employees within the next 45 days. Recently, Pakistan's Minister for Information Technology and Telecommunication, Shahza Fatima Khwaja, said that Beep would help ensure data privacy and protection in government communications. All these measures being in a country with the highest cost of living in Asia. Food prices are expensive. Flour is selling at 800 per kg and cooking oil at 900 per litre. Electricity prices remain high. IMF-led stabilization has come at a huge cost to the people. Yet the Pakistan military is busy working on its image management, on selling lies, on cracking down on anyone who questions the state of affairs, it seems. Talk about misplaced priorities. And from where we are sitting, this report does not come as a surprise. It is a tale as old as time. As long as the Pakistan government remains under the control of the military generals, you best believe the country's democracy and economy will continue to flounder. Let's now shift our focus to Nigeria. At least 13 people have lost their lives in a clash between protesters and security forces over the high cost of living and the country's general economic crisis. More than 300 protesters have been arrested. 24-hour curfews imposed in 4 northern states following reports of looting of government and public properties. Our next report telling you more.
The demonstrations against government policies, which have driven inflation to near a 3-decade high, began mobilizing on social media about a month ago. Organizers called for 10 days of protests from August 1st to 10th. Despite government efforts to halt the protests through court orders, security warnings and appeals from traditional and religious leaders, the protests gained momentum. By Thursday, people across the country had taken to the streets. Nigerians across major cities could be seen chanting, "We are hungry," wrapped in Nigeria's green and white flag, carrying placards that displayed their demands. The protests focused on pressing issues such as food shortages and alleged bad governance in the country. As per reports, public officials in the country are among the best paid in the continent. In contrast, Nigeria has some of the world's poorest and hungriest people, despite being one of the continent's top oil producers. Nearly 40% of its over 200 million people live in extreme poverty. The protests soon turned violent, and clashes between protesters and security forces ensued. In Kano, the country's second-largest city, protesters allegedly set the gatehouse of the Nigerian Communications Commission on fire. The police responded with tear gas to disperse the protesters. Reports of similar incidents came from major Nigerian cities, including the capital, Abuja. According to Nigerian police, the protesters damaged police stations and government infrastructure, made attempts to take over government houses, and looted warehouses and shops. On the other hand, rights groups alleged that the security forces were directly responsible for the deaths of 13 peaceful protesters. Amnesty International has condemned what it called the violent crackdown on peaceful protesters, calling it unjustified and unacceptable, and demanded an investigation into the killings. The Nigerian government, meanwhile, has urged protesters to allow some time for the economic reforms to take hold and called on them to end their protests. The recent events in Nigeria are a reminder of the mid-June protests in Kenya, when hundreds of people stormed the parliament, forcing the government to abandon measures aimed at raising over $2 billion needed to address the nation's budget shortfall. The Kenyan protests resulted in at least 61 deaths. Nigeria has had a history of deadly protests. In 2020, rallies against police brutality resulted in at least 56 deaths. The unfolding situation in Nigeria is a stark reminder of the challenges faced by many African nations struggling with economic instability, political unrest, and social inequality. The outcome of these protests could set a precedent for how future dissent is handled, not only in Nigeria, but across the continent.
What is the first thing that comes to your mind when I mention the word marriage? How about an undergraduate program? Are you wondering what we're talking about? A new undergraduate marriage program in China. Yes, a marriage-related degree course. What is the objective, you ask? What triggered this move? Let's break it down for you. China's Civil Affairs University announced a new undergraduate marriage program. What's the aim? To develop marriage-related industries and culture. The program is due to start in September. According to state media, the Beijing-based institution aims to cultivate professionals to develop marriage-related industries and culture. Now, before we move on, let's just remind you here that the fall in new births in China has been a major concern, which in turn is linked to marriage rates. China's population fell for a second consecutive year in 2023. In fact, China has been pushing couples to have more babies. The desperation has been evident after decades of forcing Chinese couples to limit themselves to just one child. China has been urging people to have more babies. As far as marriage is concerned, this new move has triggered sharp reactions. The need for such a degree has been questioned. In fact, one comment read, "Learning this major is really unemployment after graduation." Let's just tell you a bit more about the new degree program. It will focus on the development of the marriage industry, aiming to highlight China's positive marriage and family culture to students and the public, and advancing reform of China's marriage customs. Here's what else is known. The university will enroll 70 undergraduates from 12 provinces this year to field sectors including family counseling, high-end wedding planning, and the development of matchmaking products. So clearly, there are various aspects that are being looked at. You see, China's marriage rates have seen some improvement. Just for context here, the number of new marriages in the country increased 12.4% in 2023 from a year earlier. But the thing is, the downtrend lasted for almost a decade. Delayed nuptials following the COVID-19 pandemic have been blamed to a certain extent, but there's also the aspect of how many young people are opting to stay single or put off getting married. And what's the reason for that? Poor job prospects and chronically low consumer confidence. So clearly, there are various issues married to each other here, and getting to the bottom of these challenges and tackling them is what might be the need of the hour. Let me now ask you a question. When was the last time you looked up at the night sky and admired the moon? You know, that white glowing orb in the night sky. that has been a beautiful fixture in our lives. Well, tonight, take a good look at it because soon it might drift away. You heard that right. A new research has suggested that the moon, Earth's only natural satellite, is slowly drifting away from planet Earth. A team at the University of Wisconsin-Madison focused on a rock from a formation aged at 90 million years to reveal that the gradual separation of the moon from Earth has significant implications. The study says that the moon is drifting away from Earth at the rate of approximately 3.8 centimeters per year. But the moon's recession is not a new discovery. This has been known for decades. But the University of Wisconsin-Madison study delves deeper into the historical and geological context of this phenomenon by examining ancient geological formations as well as sediment layers. What does that mean for us here on planet Earth? Longer days. As you know, the moon impacts the length of days on our planet. So if the moon drifts away from us, it will result in Earth days lasting 25 hours in 200 million years' time. At least that is what the study says. In fact, researchers have traced the history of the Earth-Moon system over billions of years. Their findings suggest that Moon's current rate of recession is relatively stable, but it has fluctuated over geological timescales due to various factors like the Earth's rotational speed, also continental drift. And 1.4 billion years ago, a day on Earth lasted just over 18 hours. And as the moon moves away, the Earth slows down. It has to do with gravitational interactions between the Earth and the moon, specifically the tidal forces exerted by both the bodies. So basically, while longer days may not happen during our lifetime, the discovery does serve as a reminder. It's always good to be reminded of things that we take for granted. So tonight, before you sleep, just spend a minute or two appreciating the moon. And time now for Gravitas Recall. It is the 2nd of August, and on this day in 1990, Iraq invaded Kuwait, sparking the Gulf War. Iraq's leader, Saddam Hussein, ordered the invasion and occupation of Kuwait with the apparent aim of acquiring its large oil reserves, cancelling a large debt Iraq owed Kuwait and expanding Iraqi power in the region. It was the first major international crisis of the post-Cold War era. The United Nations Security Council had reprimanded Iraq and warned of military action if it did not retreat by 15 January 1991. As Hussein showed no intention to back off, the US-led coalition forces comprising more than 30 countries assembled troops in Saudi Arabia. They totaled about 7 lakh troops. However, the due date passed by and Iraq showed no signs of retreating. After the deadline, the US-led coalition forces launched Operation Desert Storm, in which they destroyed Iraq's oil refineries, air defenses, and other major infrastructure. It was followed by Operation Desert Shield. In February end, Kuwait was released after Hussein signed a ceasefire agreement. The war officially ended on the 28th of February 1991. The US-led response would set important precedents for the use of military force over subsequent decades. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas Tonight. This is me, Molly Gampay, signing off. Thanks very much for watching.
Namaste. Hello, friends. We did Dr. Subhash Chandra show, popularly known as DSC show, for 4 years, from August 2014 to August 2018. 28 states of Bharat. Of course, we reached out to all of you in 190 countries across the world. The show was very successful. Each episode was being watched by almost 25 million people every week. For past 6 years, the demand of the show has never died down. People write to us, people ask for the show to restart again. Hence, we are beginning the show once again on All Z Network, also on WION, which is the global network channel from India. Again, thank you for your love and affection. See you soon at Subhash Chandra Show.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at yoursarthi@such.org.in.
This week on Wings, we covered the new museum that opened this week near Humayun's tomb in New Delhi. We also look at the new UNESCO-listed site in Assam in northeast India, and updates from other sites worldwide. And don't miss our story on a museum exhibit that welcomes cats during a rare event in China. Only on WION. World is One.
Everyone loves a contest. But sport isn't just about victory and defeat. When the GOATs in sport speak, you hear it first on WION.
You have to play good cricket over a period of time.
I should push myself right out of the damn tournament.
We go beyond the stats. Our stories are quoted the world over.
At WION, sport is part of our DNA. Come, join us on this journey. Weekdays 6:30 PM IST, 1 PM GMT.
The quest for an Olympic medal has begun. History is being made at the Paris Olympics,
Manu Bhakat has created history here in Chateauroux.
and the history makers are speaking exclusively to WION.
I'm living my dream, and it's not like it's going to end here.
The best in the world have descended upon Paris, defying gravity and setting new benchmarks. And we are there to cover it all.
The Olympic Games are the pinnacle of sport, and they demand sacrifices from both sportspersons and those covering it. I'm Digvijay Singhdeo, and I will be tracking the best in sport from here in Paris.
Can Team India reach a double-digit medal tally?
The Olympics, it's a sweet bread, but it comes with pressure, for sure.
Watch Gunning for Glory through the Paris Olympics at these times on WION.
Right now, and we are living like insects here.
Student is a tool of commercialism.
Now that the people who already migrated in 47, they are also giving the PGs their residential properties on rent, which is illegal.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Namaste. Hello, friends. We did Dr. Subhash Chandra show, popularly known as DSC show, for 4 years, from August 2014 to August 2018. 28 states of Bharat. Of course, we reached out to all of you in 190 countries across the world. The show was very successful. Each episode was being watched by almost 25 million people every week. For past 6 years, the demand of the show has never died down. People write to us, people ask for the show to restart again. Hence, we are beginning the show once again on All Z Network, also on WION, which is the global network channel from India. Again, thank you for your love and affection. See you soon at Subhash Chandra Show.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at yoursarthi@such.org.in. This week on Inside South Asia, nature's wrath in God's own country. Death toll climbs beyond 270 in landslides in Kerala. In Bangladesh, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's government bans right-wing group Jamaat-e-Islami, blaming it of hijacking student protests. Sri Lankan politics heats up in the countdown to landmark presidential elections. Will Ranil Wickremesinghe get another term? Afghanistan's poppy and narcotics industry booms, says a UN report, despite apparent curbs by the Taliban. This and more on Inside South Asia.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the US.
And I will be here at the WION headquarters, getting you all the action from the universe of sport. All that you need to know about your favorite teams and players, right here.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of. A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA. Join the conversation.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION.